Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Dungeons & Dragons episode. Today we're looking at Dungeon Dudes and Layers of Aetheris. I don't know what Layers of Aetheris are, but I know that Dungeon Dudes are new, so we're going to get right into it and see what's up.
Hello everyone, we are at PAX Unplugged. I am with the Dungeon Dudes, and there's been some very exciting news. One of your books is coming to D&D.
I missed PAX Unplugged and decided to not make a video about it because it was like 2 weeks ago.
Beyond, what is that book?
Dungeons of Drakkenheim, which is the first book that Kelly and I wrote based on our original actual play campaign of the same name, is now available on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, we are so excited to be able to bring this to D&D Beyond. It's been such...
What is he doing? What are you doing? Oh, you're playing with your... He's playing with his elephant. I was like, what is that man doing? Oh, that dog is weird.
An incredible journey. The book is an adventure for characters level 1 to 13, set in a dark ruined fantasy city, where it is riddled with cosmic horror, faction intrigue,
Nice.
and all of that good stuff.
What's everything
so
people need to
cool.
know about this book that don't know about it?
Dungeons of Drakkenheim takes all those elements that Kelly and I love about Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, we're back.
And really packs it into a single adventure.
Cow.
So we have a city that is been destroyed by an eldritch calamity, fought over by 5 different factions, where the
Ew.
players get to embark on a personal story, a personal quest of their own, and in the process get caught up in a story way bigger than themselves, where their choices are going to define the outcomes for the campaign. Dungeons of Drakkenheim really allows the players and the game master to work together to create this story where their actions and their choices define the campaign, set against this backdrop of
So it's like
eldritch
AI
horror,
2D
and
animation.
contaminated urban wastelands.
On top of that, the 5 rival factions are all vying for control of the ruins. The main decisions that the player characters have to make on the adventure is going to be what's to be done with the eldritch crystals left behind by the rain of meteors that fell on the city, and who is going to sit on the throne of Drakkenheim and rule the city. The 5 factions present very differing opinions on those obstacles, and the player characters through the campaign are going to choose who they think is right and who they think is wrong. This is not a Unite the Factions campaign. This is a campaign where the ideologies of the factions will conflict each other in great ways. So you might be able to get a few of them to ally with each other, but it's always going to be faulty alliances, and between the 5 factions, this campaign doesn't have a big bad evil guy. There's no big evil behind the scenes. There's no great demon lord or epic dragon. I mean,
That's
there
cool.
are demons and dragons and liches and all that, but they're not the main villains. The main villains are a choice made by the players on which faction they oppose, and that faction is going to become a problem for them. Each of the factions is presented in a way that has both ways that they can work for the party, if you're allied with them, and then strike teams and schemes that they're going to use against the party if they're made an enemy of.
Oh wow, what was the idea behind that? Like, why did you decide to move away from like that typical big bad?
I think for us, and especially for Kelly, who was a player in the original campaign, and for myself, who was the dungeon master in the original campaign, for us, we like to portray a very nuanced world that reflects a lot of the mess and that are often associated with politics and disasters.
That's cool.
And so the world of Drakkenheim
It's really
is a
fun to do.
world that is wrestling with a cosmic scale disaster that has ruined an entire kingdom. And asking
Yo,
the
cat
players
person.
to make those hard and difficult choices over what they believe the world should be like in the wake of this disaster is one that we thought was really a fascinating one to explore over the course of an entire D&D campaign. Because for us, I think the magic of Dungeons & Dragons is that fantasy that, as a player, your actions and choices have consequences but can change the world. And we really wanted to live that by creating a world that is filled with problems.
Damn, that's cool.
A world that is falling apart. The players then get to make that choice of, well, what are we going to do about this? In a way that allows for their stories to be individual, unique, and different.
I do also think that what happens with this choice on not having a major villain, but the villain is essentially chosen by a consequence to the actions of the players, means that player agency takes the forefront of the campaign. At no point can the players be like, oh, that's not fair that this faction is coming after us. Everything that happens to them is a product of their own actions.
This is on you guys.
Yeah. And as a player in the original campaign, you can watch me turn an obvious villain. Near the outside of the campaign, I made some choices that come back to haunt me at the ending of the campaign that seem so obvious, and I had nobody to blame but myself, and it's pretty hilarious even to look back and be like, oh yeah, I should have seen this coming. But that's kind of the joy of the Drakkenheim campaign, is in choosing which factions are your allies and which ones are your enemies, at no point do you feel railroaded or even linear, and I think there's a distinct difference there. A lot of great campaigns are linear, and I love a good linear campaign that is like, okay, Rise of Tiamat, well, what are we aiming for? Well, probably stopping the rise of Tiamat. There's no surprise there, and that's not a bad thing. I love that campaign. It's great. But we also took inspiration from some of our favorite video games. We love the Fallout series. The Fallout is a great depiction of choosing your factions, and that changes the course of what type of a game you're playing. And those sorts of games have always stood out to us. And so when we were looking at this, the villain of the setting is the city itself. And what happens in that city is up to the players.
If you had to tell someone within just 1 minute, what kind of defines Drakkenheim for you?
People who aren't willing to risk their lives for something don't come to Drakkenheim. And so it is a city that is built for adventure and conflict, and for characters to strike out on their own in a way that they want to explore, what they want to explore, what they want to do, who they want to interact with. And so if you are looking for a campaign where your player character and what they want is really at the heart and center of the campaign, and you get to make really tough choices around that, you're going to love Drakkenheim.
Even if you want to just look at the bullet points, there's a lot of content in this book. I mean, I'm looking at right now, like you mentioned, this is levels 1 through 13. We've got, there's 50 new monsters. There's legendary creatures in this.
Yeah.
You've got new encounters. You've got 40 plus new magical items, 14 new spells, 5 new backgrounds, and then you've got personal quest rivals, scheming factions, urban exploration, and of course maps.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal right now for D&D Beyond.
Yeah, and honestly, the work that went into the maps in the book, the physical book itself, so something that we did is the physical book has a lot of line art maps. But then there was the map pack that you could get as well that had beautifully illustrated maps that you could set out at your table. And those were also could be used as digital tools online, and now to see those entering into D&D Beyond, and I love the artwork.
I still don't know how to access
There's obviously
the
a color scheme
D&D
that
maps.
Drakkenheim has, and you can see it in every single map. There's a lot of purples, a lot of greens. The haze is sort of all through the city, and it's this magical haze that has that sort of vibrant color scheme that infects everything.
I am certain that I will be using the maps as my own reference tool when I run the games, because in Drakkenheim there's over 20 adventure locations, and because we wrote Drakkenheim to be a non-linear campaign, many of the individual adventure sites are readily adapted even if you're not running Drakkenheim. So you get this suite of 20 corrupted urban locations, everything from ruined temples and chapels to gardens and mausoleums.
That's awesome.
To just a tavern row.
Yeah.
And all of these have been detailed with maps, and so even if maybe the story of Drakenheim isn't completely to your interest as a game master, we wrote the adventure to be something that is a bit of a toolbox, that the adventure locations can be pulled apart, the
That's
maps
cool.
can be easily repurposed, and it's very easy that even if you don't want to use our Drakenheim setting, all you have to do to use the material from Drakenheim in your own homebrew setting is crash a meteor into the biggest city in your setting, and
Yeah,
you're good to go.
Wow.
I think that's one of my favorite bits about the
You
Drakenheim
have got a guide to how to turn your campaign into Drakenheim.
Just smash
Yeah,
a meteor into
yeah.
it.
Smash.
I think that's one of the great things about, like, I love all of the adventure locations, but I love that, like, we hear online all the time people saying, oh, hey, I'm thinking of running a Drakenheim one-shot for my players. I'm thinking of doing this adventure site, and another person will run a different adventure site. And so a lot of people who don't want to run the entire 1 to 13 campaign will grab any of their favorite adventure sites. I think one of the most used ones is the inn outside of the city.
Yes, there's a
Whoa.
tavern known as the Black Ivory Inn that, when the disaster happened, was caught in a time loop.
Oh,
And
nice.
so-
I love a time loop.
Yeah,
And it's like almost like a puzzle dungeon. The players go in and then they have to figure out what to do to stop the time loop. And if they die in the time loop, they actually just reset back to the beginning.
Until they can find a
it's-
way to
it's
escape.
Deathloop. It's Deathloop.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If
It
you
totally
haven't
is.
played the video
Oh,
game,
Deathloop,
Yeah,
nice.
I
Yeah.
love Deathloop.
I'm
That's
all
awesome.
for this.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of the favorite one-shot locations because people just love throwing their players in and being like, you got to figure out the puzzle here or else you'll never escape, and it's great.
So yeah, it's a huge collection of maps. Like, that was one of the things that when we were originally working with
Those maps are
and
sick.
on
Those maps
the book
look
for the first
awesome.
time, I don't think they realized how many adventure sites and maps we had created for the campaign, because it was the result of several years of real people playing a real campaign and building all these maps that we had created both virtually for some of our online play games, and many of the maps were rebuilt by taking the photos of the terrain and the Dwarven Forge setups that I had made.
Cool.
And it was fun, even in the process of writing the book, we were able to watch the actual play and transcribe bits from the like that was part of the writing process. And now all the maps that we've created are all on D&D Beyond, and they can be used with the maps tool, with the token artwork for all the new monsters, the legendary creatures. It's all there. So it's kind of mind-blowing how much of just a one-stop it is for all the Drakenheim content, whether you're running the entire campaign or just pulling it apart piece by piece.
What has all of this been like for you?
Honestly, it's in no short way, it is a dream come true. Every step of this has been a dream come true. I think, again, looking back at the two guys who just wanted to answer people's questions online about how help them to play D&D, we are both very creative people, and even at the outset of this, it was always,
That's
wouldn't
kinda
it be
mean.
cool if
Sorry.
someday people cared about a setting that we made? Wouldn't it be cool if someday people were looking at that or buying
Yeah, the fact that they
one
made
of
so many
those
maps
adventures?
is crazy.
These were
Like,
things
that's
that
awesome.
didn't seem fathomable to us. They were dreams. And to be where we are now, it actually is still hard to have it sink in that our dreams are coming true. And with the jump to D&D Beyond, the thing I'm most excited about with that is just so many more people have access to experience the world that we created, play in the campaign that we designed, and be able to tell those stories. And I love hearing the stories because, again, every Drakenheim campaign is so different from each other that having been a player in a Drakenheim campaign who backed a certain faction, I love it when somebody else is like, oh, my players backed this completely different faction and we destroyed the city and we burnt it to a crisp. And I'm just like, wow, like, tell me more, because that's awesome. And I will have never been able to experience that. But because we were able to create this open-ended book and people actually cared about buying it, it means that I now get to hear all those stories and those tales. And it's just such a rewarding experience. And I'm just so thrilled at every step of the way. Even the process of creating the book, it was so thrilling when we were
Well,
getting
yeah,
artwork back
We haven't seen the actual book.
This was just
We've seen
something I was
artwork
thinking
for
in
it.
my brain that
And
I was
maps.
like, wouldn't it be cool if a monster looked like this? And now there's artwork of it, and I'm like, how is this even reality? But here we are, and I'm ecstatic.
I am so grateful. This process is the product of more than just the work of Kelly and I. There are the people, there's the original Drakenheim cast, Jill and Joe, who played with us, as well as Kyle,
Jill and
who
Joe.
was our technician, and
Kyle!
everything
Kyle,
running
that kills
behind
people.
the scenes through every episode of the show. Our partners, but also our audience, who have supported us on Patreon, who have watched the show, our incredible publisher at Ghostfire Gaming, who helped bring this whole thing to life, all the amazing and talented artists, the editors, the graphic designers, all of the people behind this, the fantastic team at D&D Beyond, who just, like, we came into one of the first meetings with the D&D Beyond team, and they're like, yeah, we've read the book cover to cover 4 times already. And I just find myself so overwhelmed with gratitude to be able to work with so many other talented people on bringing this world to life and sharing it with such an amazing audience of people who have shared their stories back with us. Both Kelly and I like to look at ourselves as artists, and I feel that as an artist, one of the ways that you pay it forward is inspiring other people, and that we've been able to reach so many more people and share all this and work with so many amazing people is just, I can just only feel grateful for it. I feel very, very fortunate and incredibly lucky because it's been such a rewarding experience.
Cool. Well, there's the cover. I don't know why they never showed the cover, but that's a sick cover. Alright. So the next one is Layers of Atheris.
Hello everyone, we're at PAX Unplugged. I am talking to Ghostfire Gaming about Atheris, and that's coming to D&D Beyond. What is the book? What are the encounters? Tell me all about it.
So Layers of Atheris is an adventure book that has 20 adventures,
Whoa.
each designed for levels 1 all the way through to 20, respectively. And
That's
each
cool.
of them is a monster lair where the party are going in and they are hunting a creature that is living deep inside this lair. But it is a specifically dark fantasy setting, Atheris itself. And so each monster has a kind of horror theme about it.
This is 20 ready-made horror fantasy adventures.
Yep.
Fucking Spider Wendigo.
You've got 75 plus new monsters.
Yes.
You've got 7 new spells, 2 new feats, 10 magic items.
There's a lot in there, and it was sort of when we started putting Layers of Atheris into D&D Beyond, we were like, all right, well, this is a great intro to the setting because GMs have everything they need to be able to play. But the more we started pulling at the threads of what's actually in Layers of Atheris, there's 75 unique monsters in there. This is almost a miniature monster manual with adventures, But some of those monsters have unique Grim Hollow spells as well. And so we thought, well, how do we want to handle this? Oh, we'll just put those spells in as well. Like, why not? Why not get everything the GM and the players need to run an adventure in Atheris in this one product? So we put everything in there that they could need. Grim Hollow is the name of the setting. The world is called Atheris. And Atheris is a dark fantasy setting where the gods have fallen. There are no longer gods in this setting.
God, those are so cool.
No longer, divine
I am paying
guidance
attention.
for
Just so you know, we're just...
Hollow, but also the
I'm actually
Hollow,
looking to schedule a
incredibly
D&D thing right now.
valuable creatures. And so everybody's just kind of trying to make
Out of
their way
focus.
through
Awesome.
this world. And it creates what
Great
I describe as
maps.
a different kind of power fantasy for players of D&D, where instead of mighty heroes that sort of everything bounces off of them and they conquer evil and the day is saved, instead, you're trying to just bring the glimmers of hope into this decaying world and save who you can or change the world for the positive in any way that you can. Or you can embrace the darkness and kind of become part of it.
I look through all these encounters, they all have like fantastic maps.
Yeah.
Which is great because we just launched maps.
Yeah.
Like, why was that so important to like each of these encounters? Like, this is like really great art.
Well, the lair is as much kind of an extension of the monster as anything else, you know. It should tell the story of the monster even if the monster's not in the lair that particular day, you know. It's an opportunity for characters to explore the lair, gather clues about the monster, how they're going to fight it, what its weaknesses are. Some of these adventures are set up so you don't know what the monster is at the start of the adventure, and it becomes kind of a mystery quest to figure that out. You're like, you know, a Witcher or the brothers from Supernatural, kind of trying to diagnose the problem like a doctor. And then once you figure out what this monster's weakness is, then you're ready to fight it. So those maps are kind of as much a part of the character of every adventure as the monster itself.
Ooh.
So this art is amazing. I just love
Polar
how
bear.
creepy it is.
Yeah, the art's incredible. We have very talented artists.
Whoa, tree
Susan
gecko.
Caroline was the art
Or
for
chameleon.
Monster Grimoire, where a lot of
That's
these
just
pieces
turkey.
of art came from. And then we added some new art for the D&D Beyond version of Layers of Etheros specifically. And every time a new one comes in, I'm just like, oh, look at that. Ooh,
Oh,
look
so
at
you
that.
actually added more art for
We did.
D&D Beyond.
Well, we knew that we wanted people to be able to use it in maps. We knew that we wanted the tokens to kind of match
That's
what
awesome.
was in the product. And so we made sure that we had a piece of artwork for every single monster that's in there, every single unique monster
Oh,
that's in
that's
there.
fantastic.
As a GM, as a lover of fantasy, for me, the monsters are really where it's at. And this Layers of Etheros, seeing that there are 75 plus stat blocks in there, it's really a mini monster manual with some adventure that goes along with it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Dale, who I do the Eldritch Lorecast with, the two of us always, you know, she's always approaching the game from a player's perspective, or not always, but she's often saying, you know, I love character art, I love the art that's in the player's handbook, and I'm always like, I like the monster art, I love the art that's in the monster manual, or the Grim Hollow Monster Grimoire, you know. It's just funny where different people's specific focus is. It can be very telling without realizing.
What does it feel like? It feels like there's been an incredible positive sentiment, like being able to get access to this content D&D Beyond now.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you, this whole process?
It's been incredible, honestly. I mean, we love our content, and we have an established audience who really love our content as well. But for us to be able to reach such a broader audience, and not just about reaching a broader audience, but even folk who see in Etheros what we love about it and are now able to access it exactly where they want to, that's really exciting for us, you know. Even in my home game, my wife uses D&D Beyond. It's almost like an accessibility tool for her because she gets a little bit lost on a pen and paper character sheet. But she wants to use some of the subclasses or some of the spells that we have in Grim Hollow, and so there can be a little bit of a disconnect there. Having everything accessible all in one place on D&D Beyond for her and players like her is honestly really special for us.
I mean,
Grim Hollow just kind of took hold of Ghostfire.
I mean, D&D Beyond sucks. It's just as confusing as paper, but it is that accessibility factor. It's like, you don't have to do it yourself. And some people can do it themselves, and that's great. But there's a lot of shit, and I'd rather have, instead of a physical copy, a digital copy. Because it's like, it's so annoying to go through every page and look for it. So, oh well.
Yeah.
It's so popular. Why do you think this setting is so popular?
I think it offers a different kind of power fantasy, as I mentioned before. You know, base D&D, the Forgotten Realms, offers a great power fantasy of being these shining heroes who are going to bring a brightness to the world, and you can play mischievously if you want. Grim Hollow wants to ground D&D a little bit more. We have mechanics for making you feel a bit more mortal, even as you level up. And as I said, that's kind of a different kind of power fantasy where you don't have the strength of Superman to be able to defeat immortal beings effortlessly on your own. But you might be a bit more of a Batman who is merely immortal, but you decide to stand up against the darkness knowing that you're probably going to have to give something of yourself to be able to defeat evil. And I think that sense of sacrifice and that sense of high emotional stakes is what I really attach to the setting. And I think that's why our players love it as well.
What has the last few days been like?
Intense, especially because I've flown over from Australia. So I was on a plane for about 24 hours almost. And then we got into Philadelphia for PAX. And the morning we got in was the morning that it went live on D&D Beyond. And before it went live on D&D Beyond, we weren't telling anybody. We wanted this to be a real special, like, surprise for the community. So we've been kind of holding on to it for a couple of weeks now. And then just the release of the news going public, and we were in our hotel room exhausted from the journey, but just on Twitter, on different social media, on YouTube, just watching the comments roll in, replying to people, which have all been really, really positive, which is fantastic. And
That's
just
awesome.
a sense of relief and overwhelming kind of joy from the community has been great. And then after spending about 2 hours on Twitter, we promptly went to sleep through the middle of the day. And then woke up, and then it was PAX time. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind. It's been really, really, really fast and really intense, but it's been great.
What do you like about your job?
Being creative and getting to tell stories, honestly, and getting to give advice to people about
That's cool.
how to run the game that I like to run it. I feel like a little bit of an outsider sometimes within the D&D community, just in terms of, like, I run very grounded games. I run games where I want the emotional stakes to feel real, and sometimes that can be shaken a little bit when there's a pun
Weird
that
card
gets
that
thrown
showed
in there
up.
kind of out of left field. And I love jokes at the table, but I want to create art with my game, I suppose. And what I really like about my
That's
job
awesome.
is writing content for Grim Hollow, putting that content, whether it's on YouTube or it goes into a product, and seeing the people who come back and they're like, yes, thank you, we wanted content like this. We agree,
That's awesome.
We feel this way as well. And knowing that I'm not a complete outsider within the community is really special.
Cool. That's awesome. Alright, I don't think I'm gonna watch this one because it's the making of the book, and that's technically what we watched before, so I'm just gonna say we're not gonna watch that. If you do want to watch that, it is available on the Dungeons & Dragons YouTube channel. But as for this video, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.